They had spent 7 long months tracing the Conway's tunnel network, believing it was just a series of old service routes from the 1800s.
You're faced with this gaping hole in the rock face that looks like some kind of entrance into the underworld.
The whole crew was tired, covered in dust, crawling through a passage barely 3 feet wide. Then the ceiling opened into something massive. It was the final room, the one everyone said was a myth.
Once you get inside, all you can make out is this dark passageway disappearing off into the distance.
What they found inside wasn't just a discovery, it was a total rewrite of history. This single feature, humming silently in the dark, didn't just end their search, it blew the entire case wide open. You won't believe the detail we are about to reveal about this incredible underground structure. The core message of the investigation became this: Conway did not build the most advanced parts of the tunnel network. He found them and then expanded them, using his public work to mask the massive scale of the hidden project. The 5 miles of brick tunnels everyone knew about were a distraction, protecting the 45 miles of advanced, deep tunnels. The transition between the two materials, the rough brick and the smooth, dark composite, was always hidden behind fake walls or deliberately collapsed sections, almost like a secret door. In the second chamber they cleared, about 3 miles from the vault, they found a small locked compartment. Inside, protected from moisture by a heavy wax sealant, was a perfectly preserved map. It wasn't a blueprint, it was a cryptic diagram marked with geometric shapes and unfamiliar symbols. At the center was the vault, designated by a complex circle within a square, and radiating outward were lines that marked not just the known tunnels, but a deeper parallel system, a second network that descended to depths of over 1,000 feet. The overall shape of the mapped area looked disturbingly familiar, resembling the constellation patterns known to ancient cultures. This connection suggested the network's function was far beyond industrial use, linking it to the sky itself. The map also detailed a series of hidden access points, suggesting that the entry points used by the initial explorers were just a handful of nearly 100 secret shafts scattered across the metropolitan area. Each shaft was disguised as something mundane: an abandoned water well, the foundation of a demolished building, or even a section of curb that could be shifted. The amount of secrecy and planning involved to maintain this subterranean maze over decades was staggering. It required an organization, not just a man. The team had to adopt a completely new strategy. They weren't investigating a closed case anymore, they were uncovering a vast engineered secret, the true dimensions of which kept growing with every sweep of the radar. They realized the Conway tunnels were less a network and more a subterranean metropolis, a foundation for something monumental. The feature in the vault was merely the heart of this hidden world. If the tunnels covered this much ground and were this deep, the energy required to dig and maintain them would have been beyond even the wealthiest corporation of the time. They had to know what kind of power was involved. The immense scale of the project, hidden beneath millions of tons of bedrock, demanded a power source that was equally revolutionary. The ultimate purpose of the Great Stabilizer. The clock was counting down, not in hours, but in geological cycles. The third chamber's tablets had laid out a dire timeline, underscoring the urgent need to understand the remaining parts of the system. The next chamber, the fourth one, was dedicated to the load, which the team hypothesized was the amount of energy the system was manipulating. The path to the fourth chamber was protected by a massive, perfectly circular stone door, nearly 15 feet in diameter and 10 feet thick, weighing tens of thousands of pounds. This was a clear message. Whatever was inside was deeply important. The only way to open it was using a key described in Conway's journal, a sequence of tonal frequencies, a kind of sonic passcode. The successful unlocking of the door was a wow factor in itself, showing that the builders of the network had mastered complex harmonics centuries before modern physics understood them. Inside the fourth chamber was the most beautiful discovery yet, a pool of shimmering dark liquid. Not water, not oil, but a super-dense substance that reflected the light like a perfect mirror. Basically, this dark fluid, later analyzed to be a compound of mercury and an unknown ultra-heavy isotope, was the ultimate energy buffer, absorbing the load of the Earth's natural resonance. At the center of the pool was a single diamond-shaped object floating silently. This was the load mechanism, controlling the flow of the liquid and thus the energy regulation. This changes everything, showing the system was hydraulic and resonant, not just mechanical. And get this, the journal finally clarified the true purpose of the whole network, tying together all the earlier pieces of valuable fluff. The tunnels and the Great Stabilizer were designed to counteract a phenomenon known as torsion waves. These waves are hypothetical, twisting forces in spacetime that, according to ancient texts recovered by the Ordo Geometria, precede and trigger major continental shifts and volcanic activity. The rhythmic turning of the main gear, tuned by the crystals and buffered by the dark liquid, was creating a counter-torsion field, effectively calming the Earth beneath the entire city. What most people don't realize is that many ancient megalithic sites, pyramids, stone circles, and underground temples are built on or near geological stress points. The Conway network wasn't an anomaly. It was the modern, incredibly complex version of an ancient global effort to stabilize the planet. This monumental discovery meant the network was far older than Conway's 1900s timeline. He was just the latest in a long line of keepers. The simple brick tunnels near the surface were built only to allow access to the older system for maintenance and crystal replacement. The complexity of the fluid dynamics in the fourth chamber suggested an understanding of physics that contemporary scientists are only now beginning to theorize. The material of the floating diamond object was another clue. It was pure carbon, structured in a lattice that had never been seen before, capable of absorbing and redistributing immense kinetic energy. The simple diamond was, in fact, the ultimate safety valve, designed to shatter if the system was overloaded, thereby causing a massive but controlled failure that would release the accumulated tension in a single, harmless burst. The crazy part is that the diamond showed microscopic stress fractures, meaning the system had been pushed to its limit recently. The final chamber, the fifth one, was the most heavily guarded. It was the location of the shutdown sequence, the key to stopping the cycle. The entire investigation was leading to this one control panel. They knew they needed to access it to understand how to manage the upcoming seismic event hinted at by the tablets. The exploration team, now essentially a global crisis intervention unit, was ready to breach the final barrier. But they had to be careful. The journal warned that one wrong move could immediately destabilize the entire system. The tension was immense. They knew that the last room held the ultimate answer and the ultimate risk. An active mission. The fifth and final chamber was not hidden behind a wall of stone, but behind a barrier of pure, focused electromagnetic energy, a silent field that repelled all attempts at direct contact. The air hummed with a low, deep resonance, a warning signal that the entire network was nearing its peak operational cycle. The team managed to bypass the field using an intricate copper mesh system, a detail they found sketched on the final frayed page of the Conway Journal. This was another example of valuable fluff that turned out to be life-saving information. Inside the chamber, the feature was the most stunning yet simple mechanism of all. It was a console, about 6 feet tall and 4 feet wide, built entirely of the same dark composite metal, covered in symbols that glowed faintly. At the center was a single empty recess, diamond-shaped, clearly meant for the floating diamond they had recovered from the fourth chamber. This was the shutdown sequence, but it was not a kill switch. So, here's the deal. When the diamond was placed into the recess, a massive holographic projection filled the room. It was not a map of the Earth, but a complex three-dimensional simulation of the torsion field itself. The light showed the field flowing deep beneath the crust, and the great stabilizer in the vault was the node at which the energy was being regulated. The console displayed data points showing the current stress level, the energy input, and the output frequency. The incredible wow factor here was the scale of the operation. The hologram didn't just show the local area, it showed the effect spreading outwards in a ripple over 500 miles. The Conway network, and by extension, the Ordo geometria, were quietly influencing the geological fate of an entire continent. And that's putting it lightly. The data revealed that the approaching crisis point in 6 months was when the natural torsion field would peak, and the machine would need to release its stored energy. The machine was designed to fail safely at that point, but the release of that much energy, even controlled, would cause a continental magnetic anomaly. What most people don't realize is that the shutdown sequence wasn't meant to stop the machine, it was meant to reset it. The diamond was the key to venting the accumulated energy in a safe, diffused manner, allowing the machine to start a new cycle. Without the key, the release would be catastrophic. The console showed that the original keepers had planned for the maintenance to happen right before the peak cycle. But Conway, perhaps due to the increasing difficulty of keeping the secret, had failed to complete the task before sealing the vault. The team's accidental discovery of the network had, in a strange twist of fate, put them in the exact position to complete the mission that had been abandoned almost a century ago. The entire network is active and running a new cycle now. This whole thing begs the question, how many other stabilizing machines are running beneath our feet right now? Like and subscribe to keep exploring the secrets hidden in the shadows.